Hey, what's up, comrades? We're back for another X-Men extravaganza / Dazzler. Yes! I think this is number 6, the 6th arc of Dazzler. It's so good. It actually starts off with something pretty boring. It's Dazzler number 25. And in this story, Allison Blair learns the valuable lesson of being famous and not hanging out with your stalkers. So she's doing some promotional stuff that she's not a big fan of. We get some fan service. Her changing in her room. And then she gets a call. Well, she gets some flowers from a stranger, and then we see this stranger. He's like across the building watching her with binoculars, which is always a great start. Apparently works at some Radio Shack style store, and then he goes home. We find out that he was in the military, lives with his mom, and that he's got a bunch of guns and a hand grenade like just lying in his room. He freaks out at his mom because she put his uniform out. Anyway, so he goes to Dazzler's performance that night because she called him about going on a date. And so he meets up, and everyone's like warning her to be careful. And she's like, yeah, it should be fine. So she goes out with this guy, seems nice enough, buys her like champagne and stuff. And then it's getting late, so she's like, cool, I got to go home. And he tries to grab and kiss her, and she's like, hell's no. So blasts him with light and then heads out. Over the next day, she's in Harry's office, and it's a mess. And someone broke in and stole all the promotional photos of her. Anyway, she gets a call from this jabroni. Carl, that's his name. So Carl, who gets fired from his job and all this stuff, she receives like another letter, and it's super creepy. And she's like, goodness. And then she runs back to, she runs over to the place where Carl worked at before he got fired, and finds that he shot his boss. So she gets some jabronis just to come in and help him out. She tracks his house down, talks to his mom. His mom thinks they're engaged. She goes in there, sees pictures of herself, and then sees pictures of her dad with must die written on it. So she races all the way over to Connecticut, wherever he's at. And Carl has like gotten into his office somehow with a gun. I guess it's the 70s or whatever. Allison gets there just in time, blasts the gun with her light magic, does like some sort of burst. Carl jumps out the window, she races away, and so the judge, her dad, wakes up from like the light, and he's like, did I see something? What's going on? It's crazy. Meanwhile, she goes to her performance that night, and dude shows up with a gun. And so they have a little battle. She ends up blasting him real good, knocking him out. The police come to arrest him, and she apologizes to a bodyguard who literally told her not to hang out with stalkers. So that's a fun little side story. So the next issues 26 through 28 are like one arc, and they deal a lot with Lois, her sister, her little stepsister, or not stepsister, half sister. So this is a pretty good arc. So it starts off, and Allison's playing at a venue where the manager of like the nightclub or whatever is being robbed. Allison notices this. She runs off stage real quick, blasts them, beats them up, comes back in, finishes the performance. Everyone's super happy, super grateful. And she's got some more show to do, I guess, because her sister's like, hey, I'm feeling kind of dizzy. I got to step outside. And Allison's like, sure, sounds good. And gives her like a kiss on the forehead. I think she's supposed to be like 17. She's supposed to be like a teenager, I think, her younger sister. So because Allison's, I think, only like 19 or 20 or something. Anyway, so she goes back out. She does like her performance. It's super great. Lois, her sister, gets accosted by some homeless jabroni, and she's thinking before this happens, she's like, maybe I'm a mutant because I'm getting these headaches and all this stuff's going on. And so then her hand turns into like fire, and she slams the guy in the face, and like he looks like he's dead. So she freaks out and she runs away. Allison's looking all over for her. Eventually she heads home, calls the police, and then Lois shows up, and so they hug it out. Lois explains what happened, how she's probably a mutant, and then Allison gets some like recollection of what happened to her. She calls her boyfriend Ken, the lawyer, and does like, hey, what if I had a friend? This thing happened. And then we start getting some bleed over with the other X-Men titles. So we got like we got the whole thing with Trask, I think is his name, and Senator Kelly, and how they're trying to implement some sort of, along with Shaw, who's secretly, he's like a mutant, but he's also the head of the Hellfire Club, and he's like instituting some sort of Sentinel program with the government to make money. Even though he's a mutant, he's like trying to be sneaky about it, to try to eliminate the X-Men after they beat him up. So that's starting to bleed in here, because Ken mentions, like, normally it would be self-defense, it would be pretty easy to prove, but because of anti-mutant sentiment, I don't know, I would just kind of, legally I say she has to turn herself in, but if it was my friend, I would be like, you should hide out. So Allison decides it's time to hide out. So we get a little shot of Bromeister, Peter Gyrick, and talking about the senator, talking about stuff that's going on with Senator Kelly and his committee and the mutants and all that stuff from the Uncanny X-Men. Meanwhile, Allison and her sister, they go on a little trip to Philadelphia for some reason. And at this point, this whole storyline is kind of questionable because it's like, why don't you just go see Professor X? Like, you've literally met these people before. You know, they can like hang out and help mutants. There's a lot of conversation with her and her sister about controlling her powers, about doing stuff. They go see a movie. Allison goes to get like disguises and then dresses up and sneaks back in with a disguise. Meanwhile, Lois, there's like a cat at the hotel room door, that the motel they're staying at. The cat scratches her. She flips out and like smacks it, and she smacked it with her power and kills it. So when Allison gets back, Lois is like curled up in a corner crying, and they have a conversation about that. And like, well, let's keep moving. So they keep moving on their way, and right after they left, these two hombres burst in, and they're like the mutant hunters, searching for the mutant resonance that was here. They don't come back up in this arc, but maybe they show up later. I guess we'll see. Sorry. So oh my god, damn, dude. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to switch over. All right. So then that's 26. So 27 begins. We get like this huge like back kind of brief about Allison and her past and everything. And then we see on the bus that she's riding on while she's in costume, Rogue's there. And so they start fighting. They like punch back and forth. They have like a shonen anime battle with like light powers and stealing powers. Eventually Rogue steals the powers of Lois and then blasts Allison in her face, which causes her to like her face to melt. And then she like uses her light power to fight Rogue and ends up blasting the bus driver, and the bus falls off the cliff and everyone dies, except Allison's just having a nightmare. So Lois wakes her up and is like, oh my god, damn, dude, we gotta figure this out. So now they're in LA, and they're hanging out. They're trying to figure out what to do, and then they get this letter in the mail that has like some pictures and has a phone number. So Allison calls it some guy who says like, meet me here at this time. I'll give you all the stuff, but you gotta do something for me first. And he wants them to kill somebody. We also see this like mansion with this beautiful pool, and this like old man is like talking to the same guy about like finding her and doing his job and all this stuff. So then later on, they call back the guy they were supposed to call in the first place, and he tells them that there's a man who's going to be asleep. I want you to go in there, kill him, take everything, and don't tell anybody. And so of course Allison does the same thing and calls Warren, who happens to be in LA at this time. So Warren gets the message. He's going to meet up with them at this like mansion in the middle of the night. So it's the mansion from the guy who called in the first place. They go there, and then the guy who's like blackmailing them is like following them inside the mansion. So they enter a room, find the sleeping guy, and then she calls out to like Warren to come help them. And then the guy like is blackmailing them, rolls in with a gun, and he's like, "Oh, I knew you were going to betray me, something, something." So Allison goes to turn the TV on because light magic. Warren dives in right as the guy's about to shoot him. He gets shot instead. She turns the TV on, blasts the shit out of this guy, and then goes over to Warren to help him out. Meanwhile, Lois turns the TV off and goes to check on the guy to see if he was drugged or whatever, and they're both like, "You!" So clearly they know each other. And that leads us into the final part of the arc, which is issue 28. And we're starting to get like pretty badass, like artsy covers for Dazzler's last two. And this one actually does star our Rogue, or have Rogue in it. And Rogue is punching like bricks with Allison painted on them, and she's super mad. She's like busting stuff. She's super strong. She's doing all the stuff that she stole from Carol Danvers. She's like sweating. She's so angry. And then Destiny's like, "You need to calm the fuck down." And Rogue's like, "I will not calm the fuck down." We then head back over to the end of the last issue. And we get the recognition that this guy, this old man, is Lois's dad. That's so when as a reminder, when Allison's parents were married, her mom felt stifled, so she left her husband for this other guy who happens to be this guy who was like a deadbeat on drugs, who left after they had Lois, and then he left her, and then her mom's now like a music teacher or whatever. And it's like, holy shit, this guy. And so we find out that this guy tried to blackmail. So initially he was hired as a private detective to find his lost daughter, right, which is Lois. And then once he got the information that she was like a mutant, he was going to blackmail them to kill this guy and steal his money instead. And so right when they're like telling this whole crazy story, the police come in with Ken. Ken just happened to be in Los Angeles. So they go and they give like their police statements to everybody, and Warren gets taken to the hospital. And everything's good. So they're in a limo after that all goes down. And he's explaining that he just happened to be in LA, and Warren contacted him after she contacted Warren. And so he was able to come. And then he reveals that the gentleman, the homeless guy that Lois quote unquote killed, he didn't actually die of like face magic or hand magic being burst into his face. He died of a cardiac arrest, so that she's completely innocent, right? And then they have the photos from the guy who was like trying to blackmail them that proves definitively that she was innocent, that it was self-defense. And so Allison's like, yay, and gives him a big smooch on the cheek because they're dating. And then Lois is still upset about the whole situation. And then the guy, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he's like, hey, you guys should stick around for a while. I'd like to get to know my daughter. And Allison has a lot of questions. Like, hey, last time I heard of you, you were like a drug addict living on the street. So now you're super wealthy, apparently. And he also knows Roman Nekobo, who is like the biggest singer in the world at this juncture. He's like, oh yeah, he belongs to me. I own him. So they get back to like his mansion, and then Rogue's there. So she jumps in, pulls Allison out, smashes the car up a little bit, not to kill anybody. And Allison runs off, and then they have like a shonen anime battle where Allison like drives around, hits her, blasts her, crashes her into a tree. She then gets in like a plane, turns the plane on so she can absorb the music from she does light magic on Rogue a couple times. She turns on like the turbines on the jet that this guy has on his private property so she can absorb the loud sound, and then she just blasts the shit out of Rogue, knocking her unconscious. Rogue almost stumbles into like the generator or the engine block, and Allison's like, I can't let her die. And so she jumps and knocks her out, and she's completely knocked out. And then she just puts her in the trunk of her car and drives off. And that's that for this run of Dazzler. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.